Hey guys, this is Andrew from cardowners.com making a video for Card Player. Today I'm playing 2-4 no limit on full tilt. I got an ace-5 offsuit in the big blind. It was full around to the small blind. This is a good enough hand when I'm in position and we're dealing with the blind-to-blind situation that I'll usually call and see how the flop comes down. Flop didn't catch me at all. He checked to me. I'll just go ahead and throw a small bet out there. Usually when someone raises out of the small blind and they catch any part of the flop, usually they'll bet out. So a lot of times you can call, and when they check to you in those blind-to-blind situations, you can just throw a little bet out there and take the pot down. And that's what I was able to do right there. And it's full to me in the small blind, so we'll have another blind-to-blind battle here. I've got a 6-5 suited. This is a good hand to raise up. And the big blind went ahead and folded. And this hand's too weak to be playing on the button. It is suited, but still too weak to be playing. You're just going to get yourself into trouble. You want to be opening a wider range on the button for sure, but you don't want to be raising complete garbage. And I think some people get a little too carried away about the hands they raise on the button. This, however, is a good hand to raise up from the cutoff. It's suited and it's a gap connector hand, so I have a lot of possibilities on the flop, not to mention that I have good position. This hand's kind of borderline. I'm under the gun +1, middle position. It's a hand I definitely raise up from the cutoff for the button, but I also just raised the last hand, and it's kind of a marginal situation it is, so in this spot I'm going to go ahead and pass on it. But I wouldn't fault you if you raised it there. And if I hadn't played a pot in a few orbits, I would definitely raise that up right there. One of the topics I wanted to discuss today was just the issue of 3-betting, since it's so prevalent in today's games. Not only do you need to be 3-betting, but you also need to know how to combat those that are 3-betting. And the people that are 3-betting are very frequent these days, and it can be frustrating to deal with them. So something you need to do is you need to keep those really aggressive players in line. And one of the ways of doing that is 3-betting him and even 4-betting him at times. And kind of the ideal spot to do that is you'll see these aggressive players opening a lot of pots in position, and when you're in the blinds, that's a great spot to play back at them and also try and keep them in line, because when they're raising in the cutoff for the button, their range of hands is so wide that the odds are they just don't have much of a hand. And when you raise it, re-raise them out of the blinds, they're going to have to go ahead and fold it most of the time, or sometimes they'll even make a looser call and call your raise, but when you bet out at the flop, most of the time you're going to have to fold. So when you know that they're raising just a ton of hands, it's generally profitable to be putting re-raises in from the blinds. And you don't want to get carried away, but every once in a while you want to pop up a reasonable type hand, occasionally like a suited connector type hand, like a 7-8 suited, or maybe a hand like king queen. You don't need a premium hand to do it. Of course, if you have a premium hand, you'd want to 3-bet there as well. And that's another one of the advantages. When you're 3-betting lighter, it'll help you get action when you actually do have hands. But as far as 4-betting, you need to be careful, because when you're the one in position, and you're opening pots in position, the people in the blinds will know that the same thing I just went through, how your range is wide, and they'll come back over the top of you. And sometimes these people will come back over the top of you again and again, and it can become very frustrating. So at times you'll need to make another raise over the top of them without a premium hand. Most of the time when people are making a re-raise, a 4-bet, as I would say, they have a premium hand, but you need to mix in your game that sometimes you don't have premium hands, so you can keep those people in line who are 3-betting too much. So obviously this is a good flop for me. Not only did I flop a huge hand, but it's the type of flop that could have hit him pretty hard as well. And it's a draw heavy board, so I'm looking to go for a check raise. Fortunately, he checked behind, so I guess maybe it didn't hit him. I'm going to go ahead and make a bet out here. Hopefully you'll think I'm just trying to take down the pot. It's always possible he was slow playing a big hand like a king queen, although I don't think that's too likely in this instance. Unfortunately, no action there. Kind of hard to believe, just because of the texture of that flop. I was hoping I'd get some action. So this right hand right here would have been a good spot. Maybe not in this spot right here since I just started playing, but when you see these guys in position like R1986 or Hugador JR, if they're raising up a lot right there, you can pop them back from there. And I'd much rather see you re-raise with that hand than just call there. I think when you just call there, you're going to find yourself in a lot of difficult positions, and you're probably going to lose money in the long run. Whereas if you go ahead and make a 3-bet, I think it's a profitable play as long as you don't overdo it. Here's another good hand to raise up on the button. Clearly not a premium hand, but it's a hand that has possibility and to make a big hand, and I also have position here. Back to kind of the 3-betting, 4-betting discussion, I think the key to all that is it's got to be used in moderation. You got to be real careful, because if you start doing it too much, people are just not going to give you any credit, and it's probably going to cost you money. The ideal image, in my opinion, at these types of games is to have, you want to be playing fairly tight, but you want to try and convey a somewhat loose image, not a crazy image necessarily, because it's hard to get a crazy image unless you're playing crazy. But you can play a real solid tight game and mix in some 3-bets into your game in well-timed spots, and it'll really help you get action, even though you're really not showing down any bad hands. If you're playing a solid tight game, you should have the goods most of the time. You're playing a big pot, but when you start 3-betting occasionally with some weaker hands, it'll give the perception that you're willing to gamble and play big pots, and people will pay you off a lot more. It's a good hand, ace-jack suited. I'll raise this up. I got called out of the small blind. Flop didn't hit me, but these are the types of flops that are real good for making continuation bets with one high card and 2 lower cards that are paired. Now he went out and immediately bet just under the size of the pot. I often consider raising here, and it's definitely something that you should at least consider for a little bit. But in this spot, I'm just going to fold. I really don't know anything about this player. It doesn't really seem like a weak bet to me, and he bet it pretty quickly. He didn't really think about it much. I'm always going to be raising up pocket pairs from any position when I'm playing a 6-handed table. In a spot like this where he raises in front of me, most of the time I'm just going to call. Occasionally I will 3-bet, especially if the guy's really been getting out of line, but I know this guy's a pretty aggressive player, but so far he hasn't done too much today. I'll opt just to call here. I do have position. I could always catch a big flop here. I didn't really hit the flop at all. Just going to throw the hand away. Now the table's down to 5-handed, so normally I would pass on this hand under the gun, but with only 5 people at the table, it's a little bit of a looser raise, but I'll go ahead and make the raise right here. I do need to be careful though, because this is a trouble hand, especially if I'm going to play it out of position. When I hit an ace, oftentimes someone could have called behind with a better kicker. But you'll see a lot of times people just fold around like that as well. This will be my last hand here. I've got a good hand out of the blinds. So generally somebody raises, I'll just call out of the blinds here. We got a limper under the gun. I'll just check it through here. It's a good flop for me, so I'll go ahead and bet out at it. Flop top pair. I'm a little wary when people limp under the gun like that, but this person is a short stack, so I'm not giving them as much credit. So this is a sample video of what we normally have at cardrunners.com. Generally, our videos are about between 40 minutes and an hour in length, and sometimes we'll even have sessions broken down into 40-minute videos, so that there's a lot more dynamics that go into it. So I suggest you come check us out. I think there's a lot to learn from videos like this, and I hope you enjoyed this one. This is Andrew from cardrunners.com.